Hey guys, let's continue looking at the MP30 from MachPro that I picked up recently and see what we got to do to make this a reasonably reliable piece of equipment. As you can see, we've been doing a little bit of playing. I'll throw a quick clip in showing the little bit of a stump removal that we did with this thing. We've tried the thumb, and definitely a hydraulic thumb would be nice to have. We've encountered a few minor little things that need to be addressed on this, and I figured I'd bring you guys along and show you where I got to, and maybe we'll continue looking at a few more items. One of the things I've done is I have converted all of these Zerk fittings over to standard North American style fitting. They were a needle style from the factory on all these cylinders. The advantage to that, of course, is they're quite a bit more flush, but then you got to have multiple kinds of grease guns because this machine has Zerk fittings on it elsewhere. All these pins, for instance, are all Zerk fittings. Another item that we had to fix was this linch pin that is for the thumb was not sprung the right way. It wanted to open up rather than staying closed, so we got that fixed. Basically what I ended up doing was putting in a vise, pulling the ring up, turning the ring around, and putting it back together again. An item of big concern for me, there was a standard Zerk fitting here in the main swivel post, or the main swing post, but it hadn't received any grease. I put a 90-degree in so that I don't have to swing the boom out of the way to do the greasing, and put the grease gun on it, and it just ran and ran and ran and ran before it finally received any grease coming out the top and the bottom. This little bit of rust, not a big deal, is a little thin on the paint in around this area. I suspect they assembled it, then they painted it. Not a huge problem. Probably end up cleaning up some of this and hitting it with just a little bit of rust paint. This here is the end of the swing cylinder, and this grease fitting was a needle style, the flush style, but it was bone dry. And as you can tell, I've got it greased up well now. I switched over to a standard Zerk. I'm a little bit concerned about the back end though, in underneath the floor. I've already pulled the bolts out of the floor pan here. Give it a little bit of a wipe down and a vacuum just to get some of the shipping grime off of it. And that shipping grime was mostly my doing, just hauling it down the road. That's neat, slides right out. So here is all the controls. This has what's called pilot controls, which uses low pressure or small flow hydraulic lines to come down here, and it uses a small hydraulic movement to open the big valve to make the actual control. Makes for a smoother controlled unit than the direct controlled. Little 1 tons tend to be direct controlled. Okay, no idea what that's supposed to go to. I think I'm going to need 2 hands to get that out of that far corner. Wouldn't you know it, the one piece that I really, really wanted to get out of there didn't want to come. Anyways, I ended up taking the 2 cab bolts loose here, and that corner just lifted ever so slightly, and it popped right out. There's our swing cylinder. And I can't tell whether there's a proper grease Zerk on there or not. But let's take a look and see what we got going on here. Here's our 3 grease hoses that come from those fittings on the front. Now, let me put a flashlight on it so that I'm not making assumptions. It appears to be our main pivot, and I definitely see grease down there, so that's good. We know that that one is greased up. This far hose appears to go to the cylinder, but I need to climb in there and see. And where does this one go? Okay, that goes down onto the pivot gear. That one is to our pivot motor. And the far one, I think that far one is probably the back of this boom swing cylinder. Bang, crash, kaboom. Throw a couple of bolts in that so I can climb up on it. And yes, that far hose does go to the back end of the of that swing cylinder. I've basically accomplished what I wanted to in the belly pan here. I verified where these 3 grease lines went to and wiped up some hydraulic fluid that I spilt when I overfilled the reservoir. Those that have checked out the video 2 videos ago, when I picked this machine up, there was a small hydraulic oil leak, and in the last video we figured out that it was the drain port on the bottom of the hydraulic cooler in the back that was dripping a little bit. Gave it a good snug and it seems to be doing okay. Not seeing any more drips coming off the back of the machine. So I filled up the reservoir, and this little sensor is the level indicator, and unfortunately it airlocked on me, so it looked like there was nothing in it. You know, it came up, we'll say about a third of the way up, and I'm trying to, you know, get to the top, get to the top, get to the top. So I kept dumping some more hydraulic fluid in. Next thing you know, it's running out the spout. And I looked at the front of this and it still was only at the halfway point. And eventually it did completely cover the sight glass. So we're a little overfilled with hydraulic fluid at the moment. But I guess having too much is better than not enough. Let's get these floor pans bolted back down. And that one, I don't know what to do with that corner. I could zip the corner off of the upright so that the floor pan fits underneath there better, or I could zip the corner off the floor pan so that it doesn't have to go underneath, or I could just put the pry bar under there again and just lift on it ever so slightly. These front bolts are loose so that everything fits back together the way it was. I think that might be what I do. Let me set you guys up and I'll just buzz these bolts in real quick, and then we'll continue on with what we're going to do today. Not exactly sure what the purpose of this is, but padded floor mat? I don't know. I don't exactly know why we need carpeting in a mini excavator, but okay, we've got it. We may as well install it and use it till it's completely shredded, which probably isn't going to take very long. I see I got a little bit more wiping up I want to do in the cabin here, just to kind of clean things up a bit, and I'll bring you guys back when I'm ready to fire up and actually move the machine around a little bit. Well, let's fire this thing up. We'll bring the boom back to center to go over how these controls seem to work. We've got the battery turned on. That means everything is live. We've got our armrest in the down position. This is the disable, enable for the hydraulics. If that's up, then we're not going to be able to run any of the hydraulics. Back here we've got our 45% fuel, although I think we're probably fuller than that, so we might need to adjust this. 12.4 volts, and we got 1.3 hours on it. Wow. I don't know how we managed to do that. I only had 0.1 on it when I bought it. Haven't used it that much. Over here we've got the engine controls. We've got a key switch and the throttle, and a seat belt that tends to get in the way. One of the oddball things about this is side from the fact that we got a key that's a pain is that the throttle is backwards. That's idle, that is full throttle. And not that big of a deal to deal, or not. It's not that big of a problem to deal with. The big thing is just to know that. But at idle, it tends to interfere with the key switch. The key switch would be much nicer if it was up on here. We've got our choke knob, which is just a cable pull to the engine, and that thing starts really nice and just ticks along here. I'm going to have to get a different key ring. This flat one is too big for the ignition key. Either that or we're going to take a file and open up that slot in the ignition key. So what I'm trying to do here is straighten the bucket. So we pull back on this stick. Brings the whole boom up. Pull back on this stick. And we come back to this one. I don't know if you can see that or not, but curls the bucket. And then to get the swing boom to go back to center, we press the top here. Side. If I don't press the top, the whole machine swings. Down here our foot pedals are, the backfill blade, that is raising the blade. The blade is behind us. We're backwards right now. So, and then of course we've got our drive sticks or foot on down there. And remember, we are backwards. So if I go this way, we go backwards, pull back, we go what looks like forwards. It's a windshield wiper, but I wouldn't say that it's great. Well guys, I think that's enough content for today's video. If you got this far in the video, give me one of those thumb up things, give me a like, and if you haven't already done so, why don't you consider subscribing to the channel. More great content to come on the mini excavator and other projects that I have on the go, and maybe consider ringing that bell icon. Thanks a lot for taking the time to watch the video, and we'll catch you guys in the next mess.